my boobs look good in that actually. Hey Glamour, I'm Toni Collette and today we're going to be breaking down some of my best character looks. Hilarious. The Sixth Sense was really interesting. I play a single mom who just would do anything for her kid, scraping along, trying to put everything together and get food on the table and be there for him emotionally. I remember having some of my first fittings for this film and I just thought, whoa, this doesn't feel right at all. So I took myself down to the local market in Philly and I just started buying pieces that felt right. And then I think that helped create a baseline for where we needed to go. I had envisioned something much more working class that was kind of representative of her means. She wasn't some pretty single mom. She was struggling a bit. I mean, it was really interesting because Night used reds and those warm tones very sparingly. And I guess at this particular moment, there's a lot of new information for my character and it's like a flood of recognition and enlightenment and emotions that come to the surface. And I think potentially that's what this very bright, deep turtleneck represents. There's nothing glamorous about Cheryl. She's just there really for everybody else and it's reflected in her clothes. They're very simple, they're very cheap. She's just not really thinking about fashion in any way. A lot of my characters don't think about fashion in any way. It's more about getting food on the table and being there emotionally for her kids. You can see here looking at the color palette, Nancy Steiner kind of had me in quite a few, actually not dissimilar to the color that I'm wearing today. Sometimes it's really funny. You think there's some deep and meaningful kind of reason behind a choice, but I think literally it was just because it brought out the color in my eyes. I think in playing Rose, I mean, her name is Rose. She's someone who blossoms throughout the course of the story. So she starts out quite conservative, everything's quite buttoned up. She's not very expressive with what she's wearing. However, she has this obsession with shoes because she doesn't like her body. She feels overweight, but shoes always fit. Rose changes her life. She quits her job and she finds some happiness and love. And so her body changes, the way she dresses changes. She shows more skin. She lightens up. That wedding dress is very beautiful, actually. I don't know who made it. I remember loving that dress. It was just gorgeous. I mean, man, I loved making that movie. I actually really loved my clothing in Hereditary because it couldn't obviously be a statement. She's an artist. She's going through a lot of internal challenges and changes and struggles. I don't know how Olga did it. She just kind of created a shape that was actually very interesting and kind of specific to Annie. She does look kind of creative in the shapes that she wears. The colors are very simple. It's like you can project anything onto her, which I think is representative of what has happened in her life. She has been lied to and manipulated and used her entire life and hasn't really had her own existence to enjoy or thrive in. And I think the clothing is kind of shapeless and so is she. There were a lot of things that helped me remember where my character was at any given point. It's a dark looking film, so I think it just helped to have my character in light clothes because you need to see her. In almost every fitting, they help inform how to be in that person's skin, more than you would think. And sometimes I don't have a clear idea until I have that meeting with the costume designer because they've already put so much thought into it. They have like physicalized ideas of what this person should look like. And it helps me kind of actualize the character in ways that, I mean, I'm just so grateful for because it generally happens before rehearsals, before you can start to really articulate things. It happens in a playful way and it just helps you build the character. I think Muriel Heslop, without any real knowledge of who she is, what she wants, where she's going. And so everything she wears is what she would see in a magazine and is kind of told she should wear. You should be presenting this kind of image, this is how you'll achieve this kind of life, and it has nothing to do with who she really is. So she's got no money, she's not really confident in herself, and she steals a very unflattering dress and wears it inappropriately to a wedding. Bless her. That's just the beginning of a really interesting costume trajectory because as she gets to know herself, as she learns to like herself, she starts to become more confident in herself. It goes from being very daggy clothing that doesn't really suit her to something that's more representative of who she is, how she feels, and what makes her feel comfortable in her own skin a bit more. She's very uncomfortable to begin with. I wish I'd counted how many wedding dresses I tried on. I wish I actually knew that because it was unbelievable. I tried on so many. And they represent this total fantasy life that she thinks she should have and really doesn't feed her soul in any way. And then when she does get married, it's a complete ruse and a lie, but she's going to go through with it because she gets notoriety, she gets money, she gets all these things that she thinks are important that really truly aren't. And that particular wedding dress, I guess, is, she's tried on hundreds by that point, and she finds the one and gets to walk down the aisle to ABBA in it. I talked about her feeling uncomfortable in herself and not really knowing herself. She's bullied and abused at home. It was in the script that she was a little overweight, and I think that's perfect because she has to have a protective layer to survive her childhood. I don't think I really actively tried to lose weight throughout the film, but because I don't think we had the luxury of shooting chronologically to do that. But I do know that initially everything was very tight, so you could see every curve. You could see how frumpy and uncomfortable she was. And then as the story unfolds and how she, comes into a bit more self-knowledge and comfort and confidence, she starts to wear things that actually represent that. I love Joni's wardrobe. The costumes are amazing. I actually said there's an Australian designer called Zimmerman, and I have been a fan for years, and I suggested their clothing because it's incredibly feminine and it has a kind of earthy but refined quality. Joni's an influencer. She has a certain idea about how she needs to represent herself and who she wants to be publicly. And the Zimmerman clothing is so beautiful, and it was just really ideal for Joni. So when I suggested it, I didn't know how much they were going to get, but I kind of pretty much exclusively wore Zimmerman. I think except for there's a picture here of me meditating. I think that was just a gorgeous kind of silk satin nightie with that lace thing. I think that was the only thing that wasn't Zimmerman. And it's so funny, I've been such a tomboy my whole life, but these clothes are very feminine and I feel so good in them and I love wearing them. They just weirdly suit me. This is a very particular style. This is a woman who doesn't give a shit about fashion. She is just living her own, what do you call it here, granola lifestyle. She's a total hippie. She has high ideals and she wouldn't stoop so low as to think twice about what she's wearing. Having said that, she must obviously think twice about wearing this kind of thing because it's very specific. There's the Yeti jumper, which is an oversized, in some circles, maybe it would be quite fashionable now actually. But I remember nothing was form-fitting, nothing could look expensive. It kind of had to look earthy and green. It had to be sustainable and environmentally friendly and kind of representative of what she believes in. She's very passionate, has a lot of ideals about how the world should be, and I just think her sadness came from not being able to achieve that. And it's almost like a rebellious uniform in a way. I don't think she'd think of it that way. That's me talking. And I wouldn't have judged her like that at the time. It's just me looking back at it retrospectively now. It felt right. Just when it feels right, it is fun because you feel like it's some kind of truth you're playing with. I think that's the first time I worked with Anne Roth, who's an incredible costume designer, formidable, and has done everything. You look her up and you'd just be gobsmacked. I love her. I think I only had one scene, but it was such a well-written scene, and it's such a beautiful period that I think my body works well with this particular shape of clothing. Set in the 50s, I have quite a curvaceous figure. Wow, my boobs look good in that actually. This character is really well put together. It's quite a facade because inside, as you see in the scene, things are kind of falling apart and she's questioning her entire existence. But it's a time when women were not encouraged to talk about their issues. Women were repressed, females in general were living an oppressive life, and there was a lot of towing the line and living up to societal expectations. And so, yeah, she looks perfect, pretty as a picture, but underneath it's just very tight and very wound up. This is that. That just looks like, when I look at it, it's like a perfect manifestation of those qualities. I love that show. If they came back and said, do you want to shoot it again? I would do it in a heartbeat. I loved doing this show. I think ultimately we all have different parts in our minds that make up who we are. She had dissociative identity disorder, or multiple personality disorder, it used to be called. And so these different parts were actually physicalized and took on their own personality and look, and they were able to be completely externalized and played out. So it was really fun to play with. We have a 50s housewife, equally as kind of restricted and tight and controlled. We have T, who's a 15-year-old little maniac, which was fun to play actually. She says whatever comes to her mind, is completely irreverent and does her own thing. Buck, who is clearly a Vietnam veteran and lives in trucker hats and men's clothing. I actually watched it recently because my 11-year-old son wanted to watch it, and it was amazing to revisit. But he was just so taken with Buck that I played this guy, and there's a scene where I come out of, I kind of wake up back into Tara's body, and I'm wearing Buck's clothes, and I start to run home, and then I'm like having to hold my boobs because she's not wearing a bra. You know, she just really takes on a kind of manly look and feel. And then Tara herself is kind of the most neutral, which she is. They all exist to support and protect her. So in a way, she is, you know, it was kind of important for her to be less loud in what she wore. I play a woman called Margot Cleary Lopez. She wears a lot of hats, has a lot of responsibilities. She's the mayor of Seattle. She is a mother to 3 beautiful kids. She's married to a beautiful man. As a mayor, she has to present a certain professional look, but also it can't be too glamorous. She has to represent every woman and not be intimidating in any way. And she's much more grounded at home. She lives in jeans and soft cashmeres and is much more relaxed. Thank you so much, Glamour. I really enjoyed looking back at some of these incredible costumes that I've had the privilege of wearing over the last several decades, because I'm old now.